What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm here to show y'all a matchup between two different aggro decks in SDYK format. If you haven't watched my guide on SDYK format, it came out yesterday or a while ago, depending on when you watch this video, I guess. But it goes into more detail on all the decks that I'm going to be showing off here in this duel. But in case you didn't watch that video, and I don't blame you because it's over 2 hours long, just like the LOB format guide, then I want to dive in to some deck breakdowns of the two decks that I'm going to show off. But firstly, I want to mention why I'm not starting off these SDYK duels with a mirror match like I did last time in LOB format. In LOB format last time, I started out by showing an exhibition duel between two just regular aggro decks going at it against each other, just as sort of like a nice introduction to the format. So you might expect that I would do a similar thing here, showing off two of the best aggro decks going against each other. That way you only have to learn what one deck does at a time, and it would enable you to sort of understand how one deck works, get that under your belt, and then move on to see how it matches up against other sorts of decks. The reason why I'm changing things up for this format is, one, there are frankly way more different deck options that you can use in this format, which means that you're a lot less likely to actually have a mirror match. And two, some of the most powerful aggro decks in the format are built around a card known as the Wicked Worm Beast. And you can only really understand how good the Wicked Worm Beast is when you look at other aggro decks in the format to see what the Wicked Worm Beast plays around. So I wanted to sort of show off this match between one deck, which would be sort of your normal, like, look at the card pool once and build an aggro deck sort of deck, just a straightforward tribute aggro deck, against a deck leveraging the power of the Wicked Worm Beast in this format. Now that I've discussed the general philosophy behind the matchup I'm showing in this video, let's dive into the deck breakdown. The first deck that we're going to be using, and that I will actually be using in the video, is Tribute Aggro. Now, Tribute Aggro, basically what it wants to do is it wants to leverage the power of using a Change of Heart to take an opponent's monster and then tribute that off for Summon Skull, which both gets rid of your opponent's monster and also lets you bring out a very powerful monster of your own. So, this deck is of course running 2 Summon Skull, 3 Change of Heart. The reason you don't have 3 Summon Skull is because if you draw Summon Skull without Change of Heart, it can be pretty bad, so you want to minimize the chances of that happening. We have the premier beaters in this format. We have 3 Lodgin, 3 Neo, 3 Battle Ox. These are the level 4 monsters with the highest attack in the format. You can bring these out without a tribute and just attack in very easily. And to round out our monster lineup, we have 3 Giant Soldier of Stone. Giant Soldier of Stone is a very good defender in this set, and in addition, it can provide us with tribute fodder to bring out a Summon Skull if we don't have a Change of Heart on hand, which can be pretty good. Moving on to the spells, we have 3 Change of Heart, which of course is the centerpiece of the deck along with Summon Skull. But even if you don't have Summon Skull on hand, Change of Heart can be used to clear the way for your monsters to attack in and use your opponent's monsters to add to the damage you're dealing out, so it's very good. We have 3 Dark Hole just to clear the way for our monsters to get in. We have 3 Monster Reborn to bring back our monsters for offensive pushes, and also to bring out tribute fodder for a Summoned Skull. We also have 3 Pot of Greed, draws us deeper into our deck to give us the pieces to actually pull off the combo, Change of Heart and Summoned Skull. We have 3 Raigeki, the premier removal card in the format, clearing away all of our opponent's monsters. And we have 3 Swords Revealing Light, which are great for stalling our opponent for a bit, enabling us to draw into the pieces of our combo that we want, and just letting us go on the offensive while they can't do anything about it. For the traps, let's start with the 3 Waboku that we have here. Waboku is an incredibly powerful card, can put an end to your opponent's major offensive pushes, and also protect your own monsters in a pinch. We also have 1 Ultimate Offering. Now, Ultimate Offering is good because it enables you to play defensively during your opponent's turn. Like, if they attack in, you can use Ultimate Offering to set a Giant Soldier of Stone during their battle phase, and they likely won't be able to get over that. So Ultimate Offering has that great defensive purpose, but it can also be used offensively as well if you want to bring out a Summoned Skull when you don't have any monsters on the field. You can use Ultimate Offering to get an extra normal summon to just summon out a monster that turn, then tribute it off for Summoned Skull. That's generally not the best thing that you can do with the deck, but it can have that capability if you just need to get a huge beater on the field. So Ultimate Offering has a couple different purposes. We're only playing 1 here because drawing multiple copies can be pretty bad when your opponent isn't playing something like Remove Trap to get rid of it. So that's why we only have 1. We also have 2 Trap Holes, 2 Reinforcements. Now the Trap Holes here are largely just to deal with Wicked Worm Beasts, things that will be able to get out of the way of our Change of Heart. So we are playing these to get rid of those. And also, when worse comes to worse, if we need to protect something like a Neo from a Lodgin, we can use Trap Hole as well. So it's a pretty good card. And then these 2 Reinforcements are because we're playing a lot of Beat Sticks in this deck, and Reinforcements enables them to get over other Beat Sticks, as well as getting over Defenders. So Reinforcements are a very good card in decks that are running a lot of beaters, like this one. Moving on to the side deck, we have 3 Card Destruction, 3 Dispel, 2 Remove Trap. These are basically to clear away our opponent's stalling tactics, and in the case of Card Destruction, to fight against Exodia decks, which, Card Destruction just messes up that strategy completely because it forces them to get rid of pieces that they have in hand, makes them take longer to draw into their additional pieces, and also potentially just makes them unable to win if you send all 3 of one piece to the graveyard. So Card Destruction very good against Exodia. Dispel obviously against Swords of Revealing Light. Remove Trap against Ultimate Offering. These are basically the best ways to get rid of your opponent's stalling tactics, so that's why we're running them. And we also have a Reinforcements and a Trap Hole just to side into to sort of hedge against certain aggressive matches. So if you're facing an aggro deck that runs a lot of the Wicked Worm Beasts, then you can side in Trap Hole over Reinforcements. If you're facing a deck that's a bit more on the defensive, you can side in a Reinforcements instead of a Trap Hole. So that's pretty good. We are also playing a couple more Ultimate Offerings and 3 Worm Beasts. These are in matches where we want to get more aggressive, and our opponent is also playing a heavy Wicked Worm Beast strategy, thus kind of reducing the effectiveness of our central combo. So we're able to side in the 3 Wicked Worm Beasts, and we can bring in Ultimate Offerings to keep the offensive pressure going with Wicked Worm Beasts and other monsters, as well as to hedge against our opponent's Remove Traps if we think they're bringing those in. So this is the Tribute deck. This is the deck that I'll be playing. Let's show off the deck that it's facing off against now. So here is the deck that is going against the Tribute aggro deck. And it's a deck that I like to call Worm Reaction. You could also term it Worm Control, because it plays a game that's more trying to control what your opponent does and control what's on their board. So this is a really, really cool deck. Probably my favorite deck in the format. And it basically relies on being able to bring out the Wicked Worm Beast every turn to attack into your opponent's life points, and also leveraging the power of Ultimate Offering to bring out monsters that can defend you during your opponent's turn, and also clear away their board to let you attack in with the Wicked Worm Beast again. So let's dive into the card by card here. We of course have 3 Wicked Worm Beast. It's an incredibly good card, plays around your opponent's removal, plays around things like Change of Heart, so it's very good, and you'll see exactly why in the matchups. We have 3 Maneater Bug. These are great to set off of an Ultimate Offering, clear away your opponent's monsters before they can use removal on it if they attack into it. We have 3 Wall of Illusion. Wall of Illusion is also great It can defend your life points in a pinch, but more importantly, you can set it off of an ultimate offering during your opponent's turn and make one of their monsters return to their hand, clearing their board so you can attack in with the Wicked Worm Beast. So, very good card. And then, of course, we have some beaters. In addition, we have a Battle Ox and 3 Lodge In. These are to put on offensive pressure if we need it, so these are pretty good. For our spells, we have 3 Change of Heart to increase our offensive pressure. We don't have a Summon Skull to be able to turn this into a removal spell like in the Tribute Aggro deck, but oftentimes just clearing a monster away to let your own monsters attack in is good enough and can make for some incredibly powerful aggressive pushes. So Change of Heart is still pretty good. We also have 3 Dark Hole to clear their board. We have 3 Raigeki for the same reason. We have 3 Monster Reborn. Now these can be used to bring back monsters to make a huge offensive push, but more importantly they can be used to bring back a Wicked Worm Beast from your graveyard to get it back in your hand if your opponent uses something like a Trap Hole. So Monster Reborn's very good. 3 Pot of Greed to draw deeper into our deck, potentially draw into Ultimate Offering if we don't have it, potentially draw into Wicked Worm Beast if we don't have it, potentially just draw into more defensive options to set off of an Ultimate Offering. Just very, very good. And we also have 3 Swords of Revealing Light to sort of stall our opponent for a bit and give us more time to draw the pieces that we need to really get in the driver's seat of the game and dismantle our opponent's board. We also have, of course, moving on to the traps, we have 3 Ultimate Offering, really the backbone of the deck. You always want to see this, and of course drawing multiple copies of it is pretty bad, but you have to play 3 because this is the centerpiece of the strategy. And if you do draw additional ones, you know, it stinks, but you'll probably be ahead of your opponent in other ways, just being able to bring out the Wicked Worm Beast each turn instead of using your other beaters, and having these defensive options can just make it so that even if you draw this, you're probably still in a good situation. We also have 3 Trap Holes, clears the way for your Wicked Worm Beasts, which is very good at being defensive during your turn, and 3 Waboku, the ultimate defensive card, just shuts down your opponent's offensive pushes. If they overextend too much, you can play Waboku, then clear their board with a Raigeki or Dark Hole. Incredibly good card. Moving on to the side deck, we of course have our Stall and Exodia Hate. We have 3 Dispel, 3 Remove Trap to remove cards like Sword of Revealing Light and Ultimate Offering. We have 3 Card Destruction to deal with our opponent's Exodias. And then, in addition, we also have some other options to go a bit more aggressive. So we have some Battle Oxes if we want to side in more beaters to keep up the offensive pressure going. We have 3 Reinforcements, which we can side in with the Battle Oxes to keep the offensive pressure going, and also to get over our opponent's defenders. If they're playing more of a stally deck, they're likely playing 2k defenders, and Reinforcements can let our Battle Oxes and Lodge-ins get over those. And we also have a Fisher, because this card can also be used against more slower defensive strategies, just to clear away their 2k defenders. So it's not the best card. Reinforcements, I think, is better to clear away those 2k defenders than Fisher is, but it is still pretty good. So now that we've covered what the 2 decks that are going to be in this duel look like, let's just dive into the duel so you can see what they do in action. Okay, we've got a duel here against Chiaki. Chiaki will be running the Worm Reaction deck, and I will be running the Tribute Aggro deck. So let's see how it goes. I will be going first, which is pretty good. And I drew Pot of Greed, which is also extremely good. I unfortunately don't have any monsters to bring out to sort of set up a board presence, but honestly, that's okay because of the huge amount of removal in this format. They could probably clear any monster that I brought out anyways, so it's not the worst thing in the world. We also have a Trap Hole in hand to deal with whatever they summon out, so we're just going to set our 2 traps and pass to them. They are going to summon out a Lodgin. That's fine with us because we have things like a Change of Heart in case we draw the Summon Skull. If we don't, we have 3 Dark Hole, so we can honestly just use a Dark Hole as 1-for-1 removal if we need to. They attack in with the Lodgin. That's okay. They set 3 cards and pass to us. We draw swords, and we will just activate the swords. This will give us a chance to draw into another monster to clear the Lodgin instead of being forced to use a Dark Hole. It could give us a chance to draw into a Summoned Skull to use in conjunction with the Lodgin and a Change of Heart. So we activate the swords and then just pass to them. They'll just pass back to us. Apparently they don't have a D-spell, which is pretty good. There was a risk of this getting D-spelled and us taking a bunch of damage from a Lodgin, whatever else they summoned. But honestly, that wouldn't be the worst, as we still have a Dark Hole, and we'll have a Trap Hole at some point to stop one of our opponent's summons. So we weren't too worried about D-spell in that situation, and it turns out we were right not to be. To our turn, and we draw a Lodgin of our own. That's pretty good. In the future, we can go in, we can summon Lodgin, attack into their Lodgin with reinforcements. But for now, we're keeping it in our hand because they can't really do anything offensively against us. And we're kind of hoping that they'll bring out another monster that we can Dark Hole. So we pass back to them. They activate Pot of Greed, pretty good. But they just pass to us. They can't do anything against the swords. We do draw the Summon Skull. So we do have the Change of Heart Summon Skull combo. So we're feeling pretty good about that. We will fire the Change of Heart. And instead of tributing off the Lodgin right away, we're going to wait until after we attack, because that way, even if they do have a Trap Hole, we can at least get in some damage. So we're going to attack. They unfortunately have an Ultimate Offering, and this is sort of the punish for not tributing off the Lodgin, because if we attributed off the Lodgin, then we could be fairly confident that we'd be able to get over whatever they bring out. But unfortunately, with just a Lodgin, we're not comfortable with that, and we don't want to attack in case it's Wall of Illusion, because that will just return this Lodgin to their hand. Now, we could tribute off the Lodgin here with a Summoned Skull, just to make sure we get the most value possible about a Change of Heart. But since we have 3 Dark Holes in hand, and Swords is still up, I don't really feel the need to, so we can just Dark Hole all this on our next turn. So we'll pass back to them. They get the Lodgin back. And it's the last turn on their swords, so swords will expire. Our turn, we'll just fire off a Dark Hole, clear their entire board, bring out a Lodgin, and attack in. They will take it, which is pretty good for us. It indicates that they don't have any defensive options to bring out with the Ultimate Offering. So that feels pretty good, and we'll pass back to them. They are going to Change of Heart our Lodgin, which is pretty unfortunate. We don't have a Woboku up, so we won't be able to block a ton of damage. And they are going to bring out their Lodgin, which means that we're going to be taking a ton of damage, which is very unfortunate. So that's 3,600 damage, and they've got a Lodgin up that we have to deal with, and they activate swords, so we won't be able to do things like attack into their Lodgin with ours and activate reinforcements. So that's pretty bad. They'll set one, pass to us. Luckily, we drew our swords, so now they can't sort of pressure us in any way offensively from this position. Even though we can't as well, their swords will expire first, so we'll be able to get first shot at them once it's gone. So they'll draw, pass, we'll draw, pass, they'll draw, pass. Sort of feeling like such a fun card, right? We'll draw. We will set one because we had 7 cards in hand, and if we didn't set one, then we'd have to discard at the end of the turn, and we don't want that. So we do set one, and then we pass to them. Their swords is now gone, which is very good for us. It means we can get in with an offensive push on our turn. And unfortunately, our swords also expires, so they'll be able to act aggressively on their next turn as well. But, you know, we can get in for a fair bit of damage if they don't have any defensive options to bring out with their Ultimate Offering. So we will get offensive. We'll summon out Lodgin. We'll go in, we'll attack. We will Oh, we won't because they have Waboku. So this is why it's so good to activate reinforcements in the damage step, because Waboku can be changed to reinforcements if you activate reinforcements before the damage step. So here we actually are going to chain reinforcements because we don't want our Lodgin to die, and if we didn't, then our Lodgins would both have the same amount of attack, but theirs wouldn't be able to be destroyed by battle, so only ours would. So we will just activate reinforcements, and they won't take any damage from that, but at least our Lodgin survives. So we'll just pass back to them. They'll Raigeki our board away. They'll bring out a Wall of Illusion in attack mode. That is a lethal amount of damage, so we will have to actually use the trap hole here to clear that away, so that way we don't just lose. They attack in for 18, set one card, pass back to us. We're going to Dark Hole, clear that Lodgin away, bring out a Neo. They will trap hole the Neo, which is unfortunate. Now, we have the option here to double Monster Reborn just to keep on a ton of offensive pressure. We can be fairly certain that they don't have too much in hand because they only brought out a Wall of Illusion last turn, and they didn't then use Ultimate Offering to go for even more damage. So I'm pretty sure that they don't have too many monsters in hand. But I don't think that we necessarily need to do that this turn, especially because if they have any other board wipes, then we're in trouble in that case. So I check both graveyards just to see what's been used up. They've only used up one Raigeki, so I determined they probably have more board clearing. So I just set up Waboku. Okay, I do actually go for one Monster Reborn here instead of two, just to keep on some offensive pressure. I think this is pretty good. Like I said, you know, a full board clear would really be bad for double Monster Reborn. But by doing this, I can at least keep on some offensive pressure and also save a Monster Reborn in hand for later. So actually, I do think this is an okay play. They will, however, use Ultimate Offering to bring out a monster. And just in case it is Wall of Illusion, we don't attack. We're forcing them to have Man-Eater Bug. Unfortunately for us, it is Man-Eater Bug, so they will be able to destroy our Lodgin and attack in. I maybe should have read that it was Man-Eater Bug, because if it was Wall of Illusion, they probably would have just summoned it on their last turn with Ultimate Offering to just get in for potentially lethal damage. So maybe I should have just realized that and attacked him with the Lodgin anyways. But, I mean, I don't think it matters too much because just one monster would kill me here. So, and they have swords, which is really bad for us. We do bring out a Battle Ox because if they can't clear it, then there's essentially a defender. So that's pretty good for us. However, they do have Change of Heart, which is kind of unfortunate. Luckily, we do have Waboku, so that won't matter. And we draw a second Summon Skull. And I think this sort of shows the weaknesses of this sort of Tribute aggro deck, in that these Summon Skulls can really be problematic to draw in cases where you really need something that can just deal with what your opponent has on its own. And you draw a Summon Skull, which is only really good when combined with Change of Heart. So, unfortunately, we have two Summon Skulls in this hand. Maybe if we didn't have these Summon Skulls in the deck and we had instead another card, maybe that would have helped us in this situation. It's hard to say. But given that we just have these two Summon Skulls, we can't really do anything. We set one card as a bluff and then pass to them. And they do have a board clear, so they will be able to get in for a lethal amount of damage with that Man-Eater Bug. Let's just see what else was in their hand. Okay, so they did have a Wall of Illusion. So even if we had attacked in with the Lodgin to get rid of their Man-Eater Bug, they still would have been able to finish us off with a Wall of Illusion. So, you know, there wasn't really anything we could have done here, even if we had played a bit differently. So sometimes that happens, you know. But that was game one of the match. Just seeing what else popped up. Let's dive into game two. So unfortunately, again, Dueling Book replays don't actually show what each player's sides. I will tell you now that since I saw that we were facing a Wicked Worm Beast control deck or a Worm Reaction deck, I decided to side out of the Summoned Skulls in favor of bringing in my own Wicked Worm Beasts. The reason for this is I figure that most of the time they wouldn't have cards on field for me to change of heart into a Summoned Skull, and so Summoned Skull wouldn't actually be the move in this scenario. So I did side into the Wicked Worm Beasts. I also sided into some remove traps, if I remember correctly, just to deal with their ultimate offerings, to prevent them from being able to make those powerful defensive plays. So that was, I'm pretty sure, most of the significant things that I sided in. Let's see how game 2 goes with these side deck adjustments. Okay, yep, I did side into the remove trap. So I will be able to deal with their ultimate offerings if they have that, which is pretty good. I just decided to set 3 pass. I could bring out the Battle Ox just in case they don't have anything to get over it, but that just plays into their removal, so I figure I'll keep the Battle Ox in hand for next turn. They will summon out Wicked Worm Beast, the all-star of their deck. I will trap hole that immediately because I don't want them to keep being able to get back a card in hand at the end of their turn. Unfortunately for me, they do have Monster Reborn, so they will be able to just bring back the Wicked Worm Beast and then attack in. So kind of unfortunate. Maybe I should have summoned out the Battle Ox to prevent taking damage from this, but it looks like they would have had ways to deal with the Battle Ox, so I'm glad I didn't. Wicked Worm Beast returns to their hand, gets passed back to us. We'll bring out a Neo, and I like having an additional beater here because it makes me feel safer in bringing out one. Even if they have removal, then I'll at least have a follow-up beater on the next turn. So I bring out Neo, I attack in. They're fine with that. They'll take the 17, and it's their turn now. Wicked Worm Beast doesn't get over Neo, so they won't be able to clear it that way. However, they will be able to change of heart, taking the Neo. They can summon out a Wicked Worm Beast, and now they can attack in. Luckily, we have Waboku, which we will use now, just because 3,100 damage is a bit more than we're likely to take on any given turn. There are kind of different philosophies for using Waboku. You can either use Waboku when you're about to take a huge amount of damage, and you think that you're taking damage that's generally above the amount that you'd expect to take on a standard turn, or you can save Waboku for the very end of the game when you would about to be wiped out by an attack, and just using Waboku to keep yourself alive no matter what. I personally fall into the camp of using it to stop big damage because I think it's basically like using it to keep yourself alive at the end of the match, just changing exactly when you're keeping yourself alive. So I like to use it for that, especially because at the end of the match, you might be using it on things like a Mania bug, like in Game 1, which we had to do. But Waboku is just a very good card, and I like to use it in this way. You can use it in multiple ways, though. This isn't necessarily the right or wrong way to do it. So I use Waboku to prevent the damage from getting through. And we get Neo back, which is pretty good. We don't want to commit to another monster just in case they have a board clear. So we will just attack in with the Neo. Deal 1,700. Set 1, pass back to them. They're going to set a monster and activate Swords. This is a sign that they probably don't have Ultimate Offering on the field right now, which makes the remove trap in our hand kind of sad, but we'll be grateful that we have remove trap if they ever draw it. So it isn't the worst. Swords is pretty bad for us though. So I'll activate Swords and pass. We'll just set one. The reason for this is that we are assuming that the monster that they set is a Maneater Bug. And if it is a Maneater Bug, we don't want them to just be able to flip up Maneater Bug, summon out Wicked Worm Beast, and attack in for a bunch of damage. So we do set an additional card, even though it does kind of play into board clears. At least this way, they'll have to use a board clear to clear our monsters, rather than using just a Maneater Bug and Wicked Worm Beast. So they will Raigeki here. So they do have a board clear, but luckily we've gotten rid of that board clear. And they would normally get in for Wicked Worm Beast, but luckily we have a trap hole to get rid of it. And this is sort of like, I think they might have missequenced their plays a little. They probably should have summoned the Wicked Worm Beast and then activated Raigeki. Because if they just summoned the Wicked Worm Beast before activating Raigeki, I sort of fall into the position of I'm not sure whether to use Trap Hole on it or not, because I don't know if they actually have something to deal with my monsters. I likely would, just to get it out of the way, but you know, it puts me in a bit tougher of a spot than activating Raigeki first and then summoning Wicked Worm Beast. But I mean, it's not the worst mistake in the world to make, and it's a very, very like minor sort of thing. So I just draw Monster Reborn. I pass to them. I figure if that is Manier Bug, I don't want to play into it by just summoning a monster. And I did manage to get rid of their Wicked Worm Beast, so at least they won't be able to get in for 1400 every turn. Swords goes up to 2. They'll summon another Wicked Worm Beast that they drew off the top, and they'll attack in for damage. Kind of unfortunate, but nothing we can do. They'll pass back to us, and luckily we draw a Swords of our own. Since we have the read that this is Manier Bug, we just activate Swords, and we are correct and rewarded for this. And now we pass back to them, and the Swords are on the other foot. They'll Pot of Greed, hoping to get something to deal with this, and then they'll just summon out Wicked Worm Beast, set a card, and pass back to us. We drew Pot of Greed, which is pretty great. It allows us to draw another beater, Lodge In. We choose to summon the Battle Ox first instead of just going for the Lodge In, because ultimately that 100 direct damage difference between the two won't really matter. So we're just going for the Battle Ox. Hopefully we can clear one of their beaters with a Lodge In later potentially. But they do have a Trap Hole to prevent us from getting in here, which is a bit unfortunate for us. They will just set one and pass. We will bring out a Lodge In and attack in for 100 extra damage than a Battle Ox would provide. They do have an Ultimate Offering here, so they will be able to set a monster, and we will attack into it because we have this Reinforcements as backup in case we need it, and in this case we do. So we will be able to get over their Wall of Illusion, although it will still be able to return a card to our hand. We'll just pass back to them, though. We're not too worried about anything that they have since we have Swords. They'll summon out the Wicked Worm Beast that we know they have, just to show us that it's still there, taunting us. They'll pass back to us. We'll summon out a Lodge In, get rid of their Ultimate Offering with our Remove Trap, and then attack in. They will Woboku this, because 1800 is a fair amount of damage, especially if they want to keep using Ultimate Offerings later. So they will Woboku that. We will just set 2 and pass. They'll Dark Hole, clearing our board, bring out a Wicked Worm Beast, attack in for 14, which is pretty rough for us. At the end of their turn, the Wicked Worm Beast will return to their hand. They'll pass back. We will bring out a Lodge In and try to get in for a bit of damage. They do have another Ultimate Offering, unfortunately, so they will be able to use that to set. We will attack into it anyways. We figure if it's Wall of Illusion, at least keeps our Lodge In off the board so they can't remove it with board clears. And we do have a Raigeki to prevent it from getting in for a bit more damage. And also we do have a Reinforcements as well, so we could just use that in the battle phase. I forgot we had that. So we'll just attack in. It's a Manier Bug, so that will destroy our Lodge In. But luckily we won't have to use a Reinforcements on it. They'll check their graveyard, summon out Wicked Worm Beast, attack in. We're getting pretty low, which is unfortunate for us. They'll set one card. We will summon out the Giant Soldier of Stone, and the reason we're doing this is, one, to get in for damage. You know, damage is very good to do, but another big reason that we're summoning it in attack mode is in the hopes that they'll attack into it with their Wicked Worm Beast, in which case we can activate Reinforcements and potentially get rid of their Wicked Worm Beast in another way. So that's why we bring out the Giant Soldier of Stone like this, and hopefully we can trick them into doing that. But we do get in for damage, which is pretty good. And then we end our turn. They draw main 1. And they bring out a Lodge-in. Now, this is still pretty okay because we can use our reinforcements to cause Lodge-in and Giant Soldier Stone to crash, which is pretty good. They pay 500 to bring out the Wicked Worm Beast so they can get in for additional damage. And they have Monster Reborn to bring out another Wicked Worm Beast. Now, this is pretty bad for us because if they are careful and attack into Giant Soldier Stone with Lodge-in, then we just lose because we can raise our Giant Soldier Stone's attack by 500 to crash with the Lodge-in, but then they'll be able to attack directly for 2,800 with their 2 Wicked Worm Beasts, and we'll lose. So basically at this point we've lost the game, but luckily for us, they attack the Giant Soldier Stone with Wicked Worm Beast. This enables us to activate reinforcements in the damage step, kill their Wicked Worm Beast. They'll crash with a Lodge-in into our Giant Soldier of Stone, destroying the Giant Soldier Stone and their Lodge-in, and get in for 1,400 with the remaining Wicked Worm Beast. But we're still alive, and we have a Monster Reborn for their turn. For our next turn, that is. They will get back their Wicked Worm Beast at the end of their turn and pass to us. Now, with that Battle Ox, we've essentially won the game. We can summon out a Battle Ox, revive a Lodge-in with Monster Reborn, and though they will be able to block one of these attacks with the Wicked Worm Beast in their hand, we will be able to get in for a lethal amount of damage. So, we managed to pull victory from the jaws of defeat there, but realistically, the Wicked Worm Beast should have won the match at that point. But, yeah, let's see what happens in Game 3. For the side deck, I just keep it the same because it worked out well last time. And it's time for Game 3. We have a pretty decent opener, but they're going first. They set 2 pass. This signals to me that they probably have an Ultimate Offering, but I will just attack in with this Lodge-in. They do have the Ultimate Offering, but they're not actually summoning out anything with it. They're just activating it. That's interesting. Anyways, we're just going to set a Waboku and pass to them. They will Change of Heart, which is pretty bad, and they do have a Wicked Worm Beast, so they would be able to get in for a lot of damage here, but we're just going to Waboku because 3,200 is a bit much. And they'll pass back to us. We do have Remove Trap to get rid of Ultimate Offering in case they drew any potential defensive options. And luckily they didn't, but, you know, it's better safe than sorry. We'll attack in with a Lodge-in, and they're just going to Waboku. They don't want to keep taking this damage. They'll pass back to us. Set 1, summon out Worm Beast just to show us they have it still, and pass to us. We'll draw. We'll just attack in with the Lodge-in. No need to commit more to the board. We don't want to play into a board wipe, and we want to keep the remaining monster that we have in hand. They will Ultimate Offering here, and they do have a defensive option now. We'll attack into it in case it's a man-eater bug, but unfortunately, it's a wall, so that will bounce the Lodge-in back to our hand. We do have Swords of Prevailing Light, though, to prevent them from capitalizing on our empty field. They're just going to bring out the Wicked Worm Beast, just to sort of taunt us with it. And we're just going to clear away the wall with the Dark Hole. So now we're going to attack in with Lodge-in. And I think this sort of shows one of the reasons why Wall of Illusion isn't the best in decks that aren't specifically this sort of worm control deck. If you can't actually sort of capitalize on the bounce that Wall of Illusion gives you, then it just clears your opponent's board so that they can use something like a Dark Hole to clear yours without losing their monsters. So that's one of the reasons why Wall of Illusion isn't necessarily better than a Giant Soldier of Stone, unless it has a specific purpose like in this Worm Control deck. Anyways, we'll just set a Reinforcements, pass back to them. We're in a pretty good spot. They'll Dark Hole our Lodge-in, which is unfortunate. And then they'll Reborn our Lodge-in. This sort of tells us that they are really desperate for any sort of defense against us. They'll summon out the Wicked Worm Beast just to taunt us again. Pass back to us. We draw Pot of Greed, which is very good, especially when we draw into another Pot of Greed. We draw some more monsters to get in. This is very good for us. We can Dark Hole. We'll bring out the Battle Ox. We could bring out Wicked Worm Beast just to dodge removal, but honestly, given the way that they've been playing, they don't have many defensive options, so we're just trying to get in as much damage as we can. We bring out Battle Ox. We attack in. They take it. Pass back to them. They Pot of Greed. They bring out a Lodge In as a defender and pass back to us. However, we can be confident that they don't have anything to get around our reinforcements. So we just bring out Wicked Worm Beast. We actually Raigeki here because we don't even need to use reinforcements. We can just force them to, if they have a monster in hand, they'll have to set it here in order to survive. So we'll attack in with Wicked Worm Beast. They'll pay 500, set 1. We'll keep attacking with Wicked Worm Beast because if it's Wall of Illusion, we can just get over it with the reinforcements, get in for a lethal amount of damage, and we don't think that they have a 2k defender. It is Mania Bug, so they will be able to pop the Battle Ox and survive. We'll set one more reinforcements. Wicked Worm Beast comes back to hand, and they will reborn a Lodge In again. They'll bring out Worm Beasts, attack in. We're fine taking all of this because we have a monster reborn of our own to get over the Lodge In and 2 reinforcements set up. So we're fine taking all of that. They'll set 2, pass to us. We're feeling pretty good. Bring out a Wicked Worm Beast that is met with a Trap Hole, but we can always just reborn it back. Now we attack into the Lodge In here. Even if they have reinforcements of their own, we have 2 reinforcements, so it's still pretty good. In damage step, we activate 1 reinforcement just to get over the Lodge In, save the other for later, and we'll get back the Wicked Worm Beast. They're going to bring out a Lodge In, attack in. We'll take 1800, but we're still feeling pretty good. We have Waboku. Now, we're just going to activate swords here and set the Waboku. The reasoning for this is that if we have some sort of board clear or way to get more monsters on the board, it's better just to wait until we clear the board and attack in for all their life points, especially since they're running low on life points. Ultimate Offering isn't quite as good for them now. So we can wait until we get a board clear. No need to use the reinforcements yet. They're just going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast to show us that they have it. And there's a board clear. Dark Hole. We'll bring out a Wicked Worm Beast of our own, attack in. They will use the 500 to bring out a Wicked Worm Beast, hoping it will survive this battle. But luckily for us, we have Waboku just to crash. We're saving the reinforcements for later because, again, if they bring out like a Wall of Illusion with Ultimate Offering, we want to be able to get over it. And we're not too worried about our life points now, considering that we're in a winning position pretty much. They just reveal that they have nothing here, and we can just get in and win next turn. So that's the end of the game. If they had played a bit more carefully game 2, then Worm Control definitely would have beaten this. But I think it's very telling that Tribute Aggro had to side into a Wicked Worm Beast strategy in order to beat the other Wicked Worm Beast strategy. So I think that kind of shows the flaws that a Tribute Aggro deck can have, and the strength of something like a Wicked Worm Beast, just being able to dodge removal every turn. Like, these removal spells were essentially useless for them, because we just had, at the end of the game, a Wicked Worm Beast who could just enable us to get a monster on field every turn. And we had this backup monster in hand in case, they brought out a big beater that we couldn't clear. We could always set the Giant Soldier of Stone as a defensive option. So even though the Tribute Aggro deck did win the match, it lost very, very badly when it was playing its Tribute strategy. And the only way it won was by adopting this Wicked Worm Beast strategy. So I do think that this just sort of shows that Worm Control is the best way to go in this format when talking about aggro decks. Now, that's the match, but as an added little thing, we had so much fun playing those games that we just decided to keep playing. So we actually played a 4th game, and I'll just show both the hands since this isn't really, an official game in the match. The match was over. We just wanted to play again. But since we played again, I sided back into the Tribute Aggro because we were just playing for fun. So let's see how it does. We clear their Lodge In, attack in with Neo. All they've got is a Wicked Worm Beast and 2 Reborns. They're going to Dark Hole, they're going to bring back their Lodgin because they've got multiple reborns, so they can use one reborn now. They attack him with Lodgin, pass back to us. We have a Raigeki. We'll bring out a Battle Ox, attack in. I'm not actually sure why they didn't bring out their Wicked Worm Beast last turn just to get in for more damage. They probably should have done that, but I don't know. This is just a game for fun, so it doesn't really matter. They'll reborn the Lodgin. Now they'll bring out the Wicked Worm Beast. We do have a reinforcements, however, so their Lodgin will not be able to get in. And the Wicked Worm Beast will return to hand. We did draw a Summon Skull, but we don't really have anything to capitalize on it with. They will activate Ultimate Offering, set 1, and this will return Battle Ox to hand, unfortunately. And they do have a Worm Beast to get over the Giant Soldier of Stone. We have no spell or trap cards to set as a bluff, so they know we don't have another reinforcements. And they'll also just be able to set a trap hole. This is pretty good, but we do some Battle Ox hoping that we can use Raigeki and then get in. They're just going to trap hole it preemptively because they figure the only reason they'd summon out Battle Ox is if they can do something with it. So unfortunately, we don't get to capitalize on that. And they will get to attack in for a big 2,400 points of damage, which is a bit unfortunate for us. And then it's back to us. We draw a second Summon Skull again, just a useless card. And we summon the Giant Soldier Stone here, hoping to just be able to attack over this Wall of Illusion, even though Giant Soldier Stone will return to hand. The reason we don't set it is because we figure they might have more removal. And at least this way, we're getting rid of one of their monsters and having a monster for next turn too. So we might as well do this, even though we're at relatively low life points. We think it's probably unlikely they can kill us this next turn. Unfortunately, we are wrong. They pay 500 to bring out another Wicked Worm Beast. And now they bring out a Lodgin. And that is 4,600 damage. That is enough to kill us. So, even though Tribute Aggro did win the whole match, the only reason it did win was because it sided into the Wicked Worm Beast. And I think that games 1 and 4 really show the weaknesses of the Tribute Aggro strategy. Where if you draw Summon Skull without Change of Heart, it just sort of sits in your hand and does nothing. There's very little you can do with it. So, I hope that this sort of showed the strengths and weaknesses of both decks, and sort of showed why Wicked Worm Beast is such a good card in this format. Sure, it doesn't have the attack points to be able to beat over things like Battle Ox or Neo or even Lodgin, but it is able to just be a resource that you have at all times most of the time. And if you've got enough removal, which in this format, removal is a dime a dozen, then the Wicked Worm Beast can be a very powerful tool. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I am planning on putting up some more duels in this format in the coming days, so be sure to look out for those. But until next time, I'm Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.